So we're on Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Beis, and we were talking about the laws of Yerusha in a case where we're not sure who the father of this child is. He might be a child of the first husband after 7 months of pregnancy, he was a preemie, or the son of the second husband as a full-fledged 9-month baby. And that's why the Chazal made takanas, but they violated this takana. She got remarried shortly after she was either divorced or widowed from her first husband. She didn't wait the 3-month required period. And she's pregnant and she gives birth. We don't know who the father is. And now we have a Yerusha question. So, for example, let's say the second husband has children who are Vadai, Yorshin. We call them the Achim, the brothers. Then we have this one child who may or may not be his child, because he may be a ben, what do we say? A ben Sheva L'Rishon. And this child, who's called Safek in the language of the Gemara, comes to inherit together with the Achim. And he says, well, I want my portion. And they have a right to say to him, well, first prove that you're an Ach. Do we share the same father? Because Yerusha goes through the father. Now we have a more complicated case when the father of the Safek was Miyabem, the wife of the previous husband, because that was his brother. And why is that so much more complicated? Because when the Yavam dies, when the deceased without children dies, the Yavam inherits the Nechasim. Now, it's only viable if the deceased was childless. We don't know that he was childless. He may have indeed left Zerah, because we don't know if the child of the Yavam is really the child of the Yavam or the child of the deceased. We'll call him Reuven and Shimon. We don't know if the Safek is the son of Shimon or the son of Reuven. Now, the situation becomes complicated with regard to the estate left by Reuven, because Shimon is going to claim that he's the Yavam and he inherits Reuven. Whereas the Safek is claiming, Shimon, you're not a Yavam at all, because I'm not your son. I'm the son of Reuven, the deceased. And that makes me the exclusive heir, and the estate is mine. So we have one contention here between Shimon and the Safek. Shimon is claiming, I inherit the entire estate because you are my son, Mr. Safek, and my older brother never left this world without any children. So I inherit him as a Yavam because I was Mekayim in the midst of Yibum. The Safek for his part says, no, you got it wrong. I'm not your son. I'm the son of Reuven, the late Reuven. I inherit the entire estate. Now, in that case, it's like an all or nothing situation. Either it all goes to Shimon, the Yavam, or it all goes to the Safek. So we say Yachlok. That's called Maman Amuta b'Safek, and we divide it equally into 2 halves. That's what we do with the estate. But what's our case? So again, officially, we're up to Rabbi Abba on Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Beis. Rabbi Abba, Omar Rav, Kam Dine. But again, we can't start from there because then we're jumping in the middle.
So Moishe Chavera applies to both of them?
Well,
Moishe Chavera applies to both.
right. No one's book says no one has the upper hand, therefore we say yes. Correct. Even according to the Rabbanan of Sunnah. Okay. What's our case? So we can have an easy takeoff. We're up to, which we started yesterday, but let's go back. So,
But that means that's something to do with Reuben's Nechassim. With Shim's Nechassim, so this boy who is suffering, will he get Yerusha? Will he get Pishnayim with his Bechor?
So that's what we're going to cover now. So let's just, so again, we covered what we call the easy case, which is Reuben's estate. And there are two people vying for Reuben's estate, each one claiming it's entirely mine, because the Suffolk is saying there was no Yavam on the son of Reuben. And Shimon is claiming, you, Reuben, are my son, and I was Mekayim in the midst of Yibum, and therefore I get the estate of Reuben. So that's, again, I call it black and white. You know, it's either this or it's that, and no one's books look, no one has the upper hand, and that's Yachlok. But now we get to a more complicated. Just give me a minute to find the line in the Gemara. It's a little bit. This is what happens when I don't write the line in the Gemara. Just give me a second. Safek Ubnei Yavam. Okay. Yeah. How do I show you this? It's actually last word in the line.
14 lines up from the bottom.
Oh, okay. 1, 2. Okay. It's a little bit earlier than that. But anyway, as long as you have the place, I'm just going to read the Gemara out loud, and hopefully you'll follow it inside. Safek ubnei Yavam shebo lachlok b'nichsei Yavam. This is the case that David was referring to, where Shimon dies, and the question is, what do we do with the estate of Shimon? Who inherits the estate of Shimon? And it's very complicated because although Shimon has Vadai brothers, what we call them, not his brother, I mean sons, he's got Vadai Banim, correct? And therefore, the status of the Safek is he might be the son of Reuben. He's not even a son of Shimon. He's out of the picture entirely.
Can I ask a question?
Which, just give me one more minute because otherwise it's very complicated for me. So just to get the mechanics. So again, before we get too complicated, but what I'm saying to you is wrong. I'm just trying to simplify it in the incorrect way. But at first glance, I don't know why I'm getting an echo now, but at first glance, what happens here is that the Safek is really in trouble. Why? Because he can't establish himself as a Yoresh vis-a-vis what might be his father Shimon, to claim that he gets a segment of Shimon's estate after the death of Shimon, together with the other brothers who are Vadai sons of Shimon, because the brothers will say to him, prove that you're a brother. Maybe your father is Reuben. And therefore they have a right to bounce him out of the ballpark, out of the ring. But it's much more complicated than that. Why? Because if the brothers are going to say to the Suffolk, you are not our brother, you are not the son of Shimon, then who is his father? It's Reuben. And part of Shimon's estate, whatever section that is, we'll have to determine, but part of Shimon's estate is Reuben's estate, meaning Shimon as a Yavam inherited Reuben, or at least half of Reuben. You follow what I mean? Because we said Yachloku in the previous case. So 50% of Reuben's estate is in the hands of Shimon. Let's put an X on that 50%, right? Let's say Shimon has 10 fields. 2 of those fields, or 5 of those, I don't know how many of those fields, he inherited from Reuben, his late brother. If the brothers now, the Vadai sons of Shimon, vis-a-vis the estate of Shimon, are going to say to the Suffolk, my friend, you're the son of Reuben, get out of here. Get lost, fly kite. You're not a brother. So then the Suffolk is going to turn back to the brothers, and he's going to say to the brothers, then a large chunk of your father's estate that you claim is not my father is mine, because now you're admitting that I was the sole, right, S-O-L-E, the exclusive heir of Reuben, so that all the property in the estate of Shimon that Shimon is holding on to, Shimon died, but I'm taking this like, all of the estate that he got from Reuben is mine. That's what the Suffolk is claiming. Yeah, Don, I'm sorry. I just wanted to get that off my chest. You know?
Now you answered the question. The assumption is that Reuben's estate was already split 50-50 between the Suffolk and
correct.
Shimon.
That's what happened. At stage number 1, Reuben died. Shimon was Miyabe Meshus Reuben, but he did so prematurely, if you follow what I mean, so that when the wife of Reuben, who's now the wife of Shimon, gives birth to a Suffolk, who's a Suffolk, whether he's the son of Reuben or the son of Shimon, with the estate of Reuben, we're going to split it equally. Half of it will go to the Yavam. And that half goes to the Yavam on the side that he's the father of the Suffolk. So now, any claim to that half of the estate on the part of the brothers when Shimon himself dies in the next generation, if you follow what I mean, that claim to that half, or whatever, we'll call it half of the original estate. I don't know if it's half of the present estate. There could be a fifth, it could be 100, it doesn't matter. But they're messing themselves up. The very moment they say to the Suffolk, and again, it doesn't matter whether they say it or not. The lawyers will say it, right? Get out of here. Go fly, okay? You're not our brother. As soon as they say that, they may be burying themselves, in a sense, as far as the Yerusha is concerned, because then they have no rights to that part of, if you follow me, Shimon's estate that's really Reuben, that Shimon inherited from Reuben, which is half of Reuben's estate that Shimon had inherited. So if you look at the Gemara says, Safek b'nei Yavam shebo lachlak b'nichsei Yavam, lebasa depolag Yavam b'nichsei Misna. Lebasa means after they divvied up the Yerusha of the Misna, meaning of Reuven, which they divided up equally between the Safek and Shimon, the Yavam. They turn to the Safek, who wants to now inherit Shimon. I see, right? You want to take let's say there are 2 Vadai brothers. You want to take 1/3. Forget about it. Bechor, right? Leave out Bechor. You want to take 1/3 of the estate. Go prove that you're a brother of ours. Yeah, we like you. You're a nice guy, but you might be the son of Reuben. Amalu Suffolk. Suffolk says, you just fell into my own trap.
But why would we try to do before we do the same thing?
No.
No, why not?
Because here it's not a yachloku situation. The very moment the brothers say to this guy, which we call a suffix, you're not our brother, then forget about yachloku. They have to forfeit that part of the estate which their father Shimon inherited from his late brother Reuven, because this suffix is now the son of Reuven. Well, let's read it inside. Amalu suffix. So the suffix says, you can't throw me out of the street here and tell me I have no rights to this estate. If you want to admit that I'm a brother, is Havalu Mansab Adayu. I get, let's Lamazog in 1/3 of the Yerush, they're two bun. Because he calls it Bnei Yevamot. So apparently there are two, or at least two, right? Ve'i bar misna, if you can tell me I'm the son of the deceased, misna milosha base, meaning I'm the son of Reuven, and therefore I'm not a brother, and now you want to throw me out in the streets, is Havali Palga the Palga Vuamadne. Give me the half that your father, Shimon, inherited from Reuven's estate. Again, Rabbi said this could be dramatic because it could be that Reuven's estate was humongous. Let's say Reuven was the rich brother. Yeah, everybody has a rich brother, right? You wish you were the rich brother, right? But we're not always the rich brother. So the rich brother here was Reuven. I'm just dramatizing. Reuven had an estate that took half of Australia. You know, Australia is one of the largest countries in the face. He owned half of Australia, Reuven. And now half of that goes to Shimon, his Yavam, his brother, and half goes to the suffix. Now the suffix says, I want the half that Shimon took, because you guys, the sons of Shimon, are admitting that I'm not your brother, but rather I'm the brother of, I'm the son of Reuven. In which case, half of Australia is mine, or a quarter of Australia, whatever it is. So how do we sort through this whole thing? And the Gemara is going to talk about something called Kam Dine. So we'll try to explain what Kam Dine means, because that throws a whole nother element into the sugi. Now, we've been assuming, in the way we presented the Gemara, that the estate of Reuven was already divvied up. And that's called Kam Dine. And the Gemara is going to present the thesis. Again, I'm just saying it in very general terms. You know, we'll use our brains to fit in all the nitty-gritty details. But just in general terms, the Gemara is going to make the following distinction. In both cases, the facts on the ground are identical, with one difference. That's called Kam Dine. So in case number one, which is called Kam Dine, they've already divided up the estate of Reuven between Shimon and the suffix. And then subsequently, Shimon dies. And now there's a battle over the estate of Shimon. Case number two is it's the exact same pieces of the puzzle and the players on the board with one difference. It's not Kam Dine. Lamazog and Shimon died shortly after Reuven. And there was never an opportunity for Bezdin to get involved in the entire contention between the brothers, between Shimon and the suffix. So that suffix versus Shimon is up in the air. It has not been resolved. And then Shimon dies. And the Gemara is going to say that there's a difference between these two cases. One is Kam Dine and the other is Lo Kam Dine. And the Gemara says in the name of Rabbi Avam of B'Shem Rav, Kam Dine. If Bezdin already divvied up the nechasim of Reuven, that's a done deal. And again, each of two contestants got half of the estate misafek. Only misafek, really, one of them should have gotten the entire estate, but we don't know which one. Safek ben Sheva, Sheva this. So therefore, each one misad safek gets half the estate, and that's a done deal. That's called kam dinik. They've already divided up the estate. And in such a case, the whole business of Mimonashov, says Rabbi Abba, is down the tubes. Forget it. The fact that the logical claim of the suffix to the estate of Reuven, which is now in the hands of Shimon, and then Shimon dies, is batel umavuta. It's as if we start from scratch. Whatever Shimon received in the Chalukas Bezdin, which would be 50% of the estate of Reuven, that belongs to Shimon. Period. As if there was never a suffix to begin with. That's called kam dinik. A mind-boggling halacha in Hilchos Yerusha. That once Bezdin did the Yerusha, you remember I always mentioned to you that Bezdin plays two roles. Sometimes they play the role of investigation or clarification. Other times they wear a different hat, which is called declarative law. Declarative law means when they create new facts on the ground. This is an example of declarative law, constructive law. It's not an issue of clarification, of biru. We're not trying to clarify the original stuff. Bezdin awards Shimon, the Yavam, 50% of the estate of Reuven. That's his. Forget about why it's his. It's irrelevant. Bezdin said and determined and established that Shimon is a Yoresh of Reuven for 50% of the estate. Now Shimon dies. You remember the game Etch-a-Sketch? If you remember, we start from scratch, erase everything. We begin a whole new ballgame. And in the context of the new ballgame, the two brothers who are Vadai B'nai Banav Shel Shimon Shel Yavam, they have the upper hand on the entire estate of Shimon. And they tell the suffix to fly a kite. Till you prove that you're the son of Shimon, that you're our brother, we don't want to know from you. And the entire estate of Shimon, including that which he inherited and was awarded by Bezdin from the estate, the 50% of Reuven, that goes to the Achir, to the B'nai Banim who are Vadai, and they will split it up. In effect, they are now splitting up two estates. The estate of Reuven, the deceased, and now their father died, the estate of Shimon. All of it is one entity. Kaviyachol, forget about history. It's all the possession of Shimon and the estate of Shimon when Shimon dies. And the suffix is out in the cold. That's called kam dinik. When does the suffix have the right to say Mimonavshach and dig up the dust and say to the Achim, what are you talking about? You're admitting that I'm not a brother? So the 50% of your father's, what I think is my father, but 50% of your father's estate is mine to begin with. Rabbi Yirmiyah Amar Hadarti. Rabbi Yirmiyah said that Bezdin doesn't award anything. There's no such thing as kam dinik. Bezdin is just trying to clarify what rights does Shimon have when Reuven dies, what rights does the suffix have when Reuven dies, and they're in the dark. Their halukah is a halukah suffix. They just don't know. Either Shimon should inherit the entire estate of Reuven as a Yovam, or the suffix should inherit the entire estate of Reuven as a Ben. But we don't know. So what do we know? We don't know who owns this property. The entire estate of Reuben is up in the air. It either belongs to Shimon or it belongs to the Suffolk. So we do Yachloku. Big deal, says Rabbi Yehuda. Well, what's Yachloku? Yachloku is a matter of ignorance. You're in the dark. You don't know. So you split it. And the other option would be to freeze it. But you can't freeze an estate. So you have two people who have equal claims. Each one has an exclusive claim to the entire estate. We do Yachloku. Now, Shimon dies. When Shimon dies, we got to dig up the history. What is the status with regard to this suffix of the estate of Shimon? Well, let's go back one generation. Shimon inherited Reuben. That suffix, certainly within the laws of Suffolk, had a right to half of that estate. I'm sorry, I want to go even further than that. The Suffolk has a right to the entire estate of Reuben. Why? Because the Achim was saying to the Suffolk, you're not our brother. So who are you then? You're the son of Reuben. So the entire estate belongs to you, and the half of the estate that was accidentally awarded to Shimon. Now we have to dig up the skeleton out of the closet. We have to award that to the Suffolk. Because the Suffolk still has the status of a Suffolk. The original Suffolk, in terms of whether this man is the son of Reuben or of Shimon, is still an outstanding Suffolk. We never clarified that Suffolk. We just didn't know what to do. So we split the estate, but now we do know what to do. We've now clarified the original Suffolk because the brothers are saying to this Suffolk, you're not our brother. And by virtue of that claim, they have virtually forfeited half of the estate. What I mean is half of the estate of Reuben, which may be half of the estate of Shimon. It might be 99% of the estate of Shimon. It might be 1%. We don't know. Whatever the facts are on the ground. And the Gemara now is about to embark upon an analysis of this machlokus, whether we should say come dine or not come dine, hadar dine. Hadar dine means we completely undermine and void the original chalukah, and we start from scratch again. And that's a machlokus Rabbi Abba and Rabbi Yirmiyah, both of whom are Amoraim. And the Gemara wants to make an attempt to show that if we learn Masechet Ksubas, we'll see that in truth, in the root of the matter, in a slightly different scenario, this machlokus is an old machlokus Tanoim. It's machlokus between Admon and the Rabban. So, Bli Neder, this is what I want to start with tomorrow, because this is a major sugi of Admon and the Rabbanon at the end of Masechet Ksubas. So let's make a note. This time I'm going to use my pencil, so I don't have to waste time looking for the place. We're here on Daf Lamed Zayin on the base. What day of the week is tomorrow? Tuesday, correct?
Tuesday. Yeah.
So let me just write down.
Rabbi.
Yeah, go ahead, please. I'm just making a note. You don't mind that I'm just trying to.
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would the assumption be that this controversy would arise only if assuming that time has passed between Reuben and Shimon's death, and therefore the value of their respective estates has increased to the point that it becomes worthwhile for the Suffolk or the other two brothers to claim one or the other. Because
I see what you're saying. Like, what if there's a fluctuation in the market price? I mean, that might also be a factor.
It's real estate. Shimon's portion of Reuben's estate may have gone up tremendously compared to his own, or vice versa. And therefore, the question is who gets which part of Reuben's estate or
But you know what, Don? I think, and I could be wrong about this, that all these claims that appear quoted and recorded in the Gemara, they're not actual claims. These are logical claims, if you follow what I mean. So that if you can make a determination about the inflation of the price of real estate, i.e., let's say Reuven's properties went up,
Mhm.
Or alternatively, let's say Shimon's properties went up. Those calculations are only relevant when we determine the halacha, meaning we're not going to change the arguments, even though the sons may at some point get to a conclusion that let's accept him as an ox, because the real estate of Reuven was hot. He bought in well, I would have said Manhattan, but today I don't know what's going on in Manhattan, but I would buy Manhattan today. But Black Lives Matter, right? So I don't know what you're going to do with real estate in Manhattan. But let's say they bought, real estate in on the Strip in Las Vegas. You know what I mean? And it quadrupled in price.
Tel Aviv's the most expensive place in the world today.
Really, Tel Aviv.
Recent survey. Yeah.
I'm telling you, Don. We're not looking into Tel Aviv, but we were looking into Beit Shemesh. I can't begin to tell you. It's crazy. It's mamish meshuggah. They're asking for apartments. What do you call flats? They're asking for flats that will be built in 2 or 3 years. Prices in Beit Shemesh, like right here in Katama. It's bananas.
Yeah.
So if Tel Aviv might be like the paradigm of what's going on in the whole state of Israel, I don't know. And for the young people, especially in the Haredi world, this is a tremendous challenge, because where is the next project? And there aren't enough projects. There aren't enough flats for the Haredi. And I'm sure it's a problem for everyone. But in the case of the Haredi, it's a very, very profound issue. But again, just to get back to my point, because I want to end the shia now, whatever fluctuations there are, those will be relevant when we finally come to a decision about Hadar Dina or Kam Dina, and then we'll see how to divide it up, and so forth and so on. But the machlokas about Kam Dina, Hadar Dina is irrelevant to fluctuation in price. Why? Because we're not asking the Achim to come forward with a claim. If we were really basing it on that claim, obviously that claim is going to change based on different values of real estate. But that's not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with what's called Shem Yorish, which is a legal abstract term. Who has the Shem Yorish? And if you hold, for example, Hadar Dina, then the suffix has a Shem Yorish b'Torah's a Yorish of Reuven. And if you hold Kam Dina, then forget it. He doesn't have the Shem Yorish. All right, let's stop here and wish everyone a great day. And thank you so much.